So for hundreds of years, not one or two generations, for 20 or more generations, Jewish people were living together with Jewish people who believed Yeshua was the Messiah, in the same communities, in the same synagogues, doing the same holidays together, same families. So for example, Rabbi Eliezer, that is one of the rabbis from the Sanhedrin and is written in the Haggadah Shel Pesach, Passover Haggadah, he's one of the main rabbis. He was the nephew of Shaul HaTarsi, Rabbi Shaul HaTarsi, who later changed his name from Shaul to Paul, and he is Saint Paul. So Shaul HaTarsi, who was a scholar and was a pupil of Rabban Gamliel the elder, and who actually persecuted the Nazarenes, he then, after he had his dream on the way to Damascus, he then became a Nazarene, actually, and started to preach for Yeshua. So he was the uncle of Rabbi Eliezer. So these people were all together, living together. At the beginning, before the Christian establishment of the Roman Church began in 325, more or less, there was 200 or 300 years of people living together. And all the disciples of Yeshua were all Jewish people. And all the first early Christians were Jewish people. And people, sometimes forget that Peter, Andrew, James, John, Matthew, all the disciples were actually Jewish people with Israeli Jewish biblical names. And if you can put that screen on with the names, I can show you that Peter, for example, and I'll pronounce the names so a lot of your viewers will actually hear the names of the disciples for the first time. So Peter is Shimon Bar Yonah, Andrew is Andreas Bar Yonah, James was Yaakov ben Zavdi, his brother John was Yochanan ben Zavdi, Bartholomew was Bar Talma Netanel, Matthew, that wrote one of the Gospels, is Mati Levi, just Levi, like Cohen and Levi, so Mati Levi. Philip was Philippus Beit Seda, James the younger was Yaakov ben Chalfi, Judah was Yehuda ben Yaakov, and Judas was Yehuda ish Krayot, and Simon was Shimon HaKanayan, and Thomas was Thomas Didymus. So it's just to go back and to see that the people who were walking with Yeshua and the people who wrote afterwards all the books of the New Testament are Jewish people who believed that their Messiah did come. And that's the only difference that was then, before what I call the separation. It was the togetherness. So to have the word Yeshua inside a synagogue, me as a religious Jew, that I used to be a religious Jew, Orthodox Jew, it's like to put a piece of pig in the middle of a mosque or in the middle of a synagogue. It's the most outrageous thing. And that is discovered and exposed. It's a mosaic in a first century synagogue. Not a church, not a place of gathering, a synagogue with the Holy of Holies, with the Torah books and everything. A mosaic in the synagogue near Hebron. And it says, for the Comforter Yeshua who died as a martyr. And nobody shows you that. You won't find this video on any of the official archaeological websites. You won't see it written in any official book. Not in the Israeli rabbinical institutions, and not in the Vatican. You won't see this because that's something that both sides don't want to show so much. In 1967, and after the Six-Day War, they found these artifacts near the upper room, and that upper room is just above the tomb of David in Mount Zion. And those artifacts were discovered there by a Greek Orthodox monk, and he found about 40 artifacts, all kinds of pieces of lamps and other things, and they all had this symbol on them. And the symbol is the menorah at the top, which is the Jewish symbol, and the fish at the bottom, which is the symbol of Yeshua. And they join together with the tail of the fish and the base of the menorah to make the Star of David. So you have this symbol that, for me, that is the togetherness symbol. That is the symbol of those 200 years. We can see the picture of those artifacts that were actually found in the upper room, near the upper room vicinity. And when you go through them, you can actually see them on all the other artifacts that appear there. And there's also a stone there, the stone you can see on the bottom left, which, if we can zoom into that in the next picture, it not only has the symbol on it, but it also has in Aramaic, it says, "for the oil of the Spirit." And that's very, very close to what is written in John about the anointment. That's one of the earliest Christianity artifacts that is found there. Back in those times, if you were a Gentile back then, so you were a Roman or a Greek or an Egyptian, and you were in that area and you were touched by what people were talking about Yeshua, or you were touched by what he said, what would you do? There wasn't any Christianity yet. You would actually become Jewish. So that's a point to grasp. If you liked what you heard about Yeshua and you started to believe in him, you became Jewish in one of the sects, the Jewish sects that were back then, like the Nazarenes or the Ebionites. And there is one God, and everybody believed there is one God that promised Abraham that all the families of the earth are going to be blessed. All the families of the earth are going to be blessed. Yivruchu kol mishpachot ha'adama. That was the blessing from God to Abraham.
I'll just read out, this is a testimonial. This one says, I don't know how many sermons and talks I've heard in church, but today I learnt more than most of the others. I knew what Eli had in mind to speak about, and so was prepared, but I am surprised how deeply moved I am by what I've just heard. I was surprised to learn how Orthodox Jews and followers of the Way lived and talked and discussed together in the synagogues each Sabbath. Even though I knew this from Acts, Eli brought all of this alive. And that's what you've done really in today's program. I mean, you've brought the Bible alive, which is incredible.